Welcome, my name is Stefan Balzer. I will be hosting this 60-minute session on the sharing economy. And I'm very happy that we have a true expert here today. Tao is giving an input speech of about 15-20 minutes on his ideas of the sharing economy and what the influence for operators, the hotel industry and investors might be. We hope that it will be a very fruitful, interesting discussion with you after this. Tao is a founder and COO of a company called GetYourGuide, company founded in 2009 and now operating in how many countries? 150 plus. 150 plus countries. He will talk a little bit about this in his presentation. So please welcome for the kickoff speech, Tao.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Stefan, for the introduction. So let me just get started. So just real quick about GetYourGuide, putting into context why also Willy Weiland invited me today to speak. What we do is a typical startup. So it was founded out of a university dorm with 4 fellow students, no travel background. So you have to excuse me if my travel jargon is maybe not quite up to speed. So I'm a physicist and economist who stumbled upon the travel industry, like I think many in the travel tech industry do. We initially launched as a peer-to-peer guiding platform. So, and this is also why we have some insights both in terms of the economics, but also in terms of a real-life experience, because we started out as, we wanted to create an eBay for tour guides. So on one hand, you have tour guides like me who can give a tour in Beijing, and on the other hand, you have my friends of mine in Berlin and can give tours, and we thought it would be great to do a global platform where everybody gave tours. That didn't work out, but we changed to something different. And so what we did in 2010 is to switch to a professional marketplace. What that means is instead of working with myself as a tour guide in Beijing and with Johannes, my co-founder, as a tour guide in Berlin, we discovered the professional tourism market, comprised of many professional merchants of helicopter tours, kayaking, rafting, Berlin welcome cards, and the Madame Tussauds of the world. And that's what we did in 2010. And from then on, we just grew. So today we have by inventory and by languages and content, we're the largest platform for tours and activities. We have more than 25,000 things you can do around the world in more than 2,000 destinations, and we offer it to customers in 6 different languages. Just some couple examples, because sometimes it's difficult to get a grasp on what tours and activities are. So we sell, for instance, the London Eye ticket, the Vatican Skip the Line tour, which is highly recommend if you go to Rome and don't want to wait 2 hours in line at the Vatican. I'm sure some of you have done that. Or the Berlin welcome card, which is a big seller as well for us. The company has a professional investment, so we have raised about $20 million US from US and European investors. We have a very strong board of directors. So K.S. Cohen, who was the CEO of Booking.com, I guess in the hotel industry, people are familiar with Booking. So he's on our board of directors and gives us invaluable advice. And also Fritz Dimopoulos, who's the founder and former CEO of Tunar, which is China's largest meta search and travel booking platform. So this is just real quick about GetYourGuide. And what I want to do today in my talk is to give an introduction to the sharing economy. So the sharing economy and the economics of it is something that we've been fascinated by, because it's something that is very new. It started decades ago, centuries ago, but it's only really emerged in recent years in industries such as transportation, accommodation, and anything from pet keeping. So I want to talk a little bit about what is the sharing economy and what are the economics underlying it. So first of all, when people look at the sharing economy, they like to draw models and economics and all these things. But what I think sharing economy is really about is that companies or providers are giving customers access to things they didn't have access before. If you think about, let's take the Airbnb example. People now have access to unique properties that they didn't have before, which is quite interesting. Or you give people access to on eBay, for instance. Previously, if you wanted to buy something but could not afford it, you did not have access to it. To buy a used item with a lower cost, you suddenly gain access because you can economically afford it. So the sharing economy is primarily about giving people access to inventory they didn't have access to. And the reason for that is most assets have a fixed cost. So what the sharing economy does is you divide the fixed cost by multiple users. If you take the eBay example, if you buy a car and you sell it again, basically two people are sharing the fixed cost of the same asset. So instead of letting the asset completely depreciate, in the case of a depreciating asset, you can share the fixed cost over multiple users, hence giving people access to the same good without paying for the full price. And this is really one of the social changes, the social underlying is people value utility over ownership. Instead of me having to own a house or to own an apartment, to own a car, or own an expensive tool that I only use once a year, I can rent it, or I can give it to like-minded people, or you can make a commune where you buy an expensive tool in the neighborhood and share it, except in the case of the sharing economy, that happens on a global scale. There are two types of sharing economy. I mean, there's different ways to look at the sharing economy and what type of networks exist. But there are generally two types of networks. The first one is a centrally managed network. What the centrally managed network does is there's one provider providing one asset to multiple consumers. And I will give you the example. So the example is car sharing. If you've been to Berlin the last couple of days, you may have seen there's these Drive Nows, which is the BMWs and Minis with some blue logo on the back, or these small smarts. What that is actually BMW and Mercedes putting these cars in the street. And what I can do, I just take my phone, I find a car nearby, I swipe my chip, I get into the car and drive. So what is here is you have one central manager, which is BMW or Smart or Mercedes, providing access to these cars without me having to buy the car. But I gain the benefit of the utility of the car without having to own it. The second type of sharing economy is peer-to-peer networks. So peer-to-peer networks is, for instance, what we did initially as a tour guiding platform, where you share, so I can offer something and my friend can offer something else. And what here really happens is basically consumers are providers. So on eBay, you can be both a seller and a buyer. On Airbnb, you can both be a renter and you can be a rentee. So you can basically, it's giving people, making it a symmetric network. So the examples are very clear. So it's eBay, it's Airbnb, and Vimdo, but you can find many, many different verticals. Basically, it's if you think about a good that people have, but they don't use all the time and they can share, and share some of the costs, basically asking for money and basically sharing the costs, then you have a peer-to-peer network. So I wanted to show you an example. So this is, as an economist, when I look at a parking lot like this, the one big thing I think of is this is an incredible waste of assets. If you think about buying a car is one of the most, in terms of pure investment decision, one of the worst decisions you can make to buy a car. Basically, when you buy the car, make the handshake, you incur a loss of multiple thousands of euros or dollars. So this is absolutely insane. With all these cars lying around, not being used, makes zero sense from an economic point of view. The same could be said. So this is some kind of trailer. Is interesting, unique locations where people could be staying. And this is the same. When you think about if people have multiple homes, they cannot stay at multiple homes at the same time. Or if people are traveling themselves, the home is unused, but there's a tremendous cost involved. So from a purely economic point of view, it makes sense to take that distressed inventory and make money from it. So a little bit about how the peer-to-peer, I think, property rental is portrayed in the press. I think there's probably two main streams. One is it's an unregulated industry creating an unfair advantage. And the other one is there's a safety risk for renters and customers alike. And there have been stories of someone staying in a place and burglaring the whole place, and then Airbnb had to come in and save the place. So these are valid concerns, but the important thing is to think about what it's really about. What it's really about is about economic potential being unleashed. If you think purely from an asset point of view, it's assets that have value that are being unleashed. Yes, you will have issues on the fringes. You have problems of regulation. It's probably an industry that also needs to be regulated, but it's not something that would simply go away by being out-regulated. What it's also about, and this is the key point, I think, is it's giving customers what they want. If you purely look at the Airbnb example, for instance, you will see that it's about low prices. So when I talk to my friends, and most of my friends are in the low-income bracket, and they would say, I'm going to New York for a weekend to visit my friends. And it's like, but I cannot afford a hotel, so I'm buying an Airbnb. So low prices is one unique property of these things. Another one is availability. So if you think about cars, if you think about cabs, if you think about accommodation, many industries where you have, let's say, an incumbent group of people providing a certain good or service, sometimes the availability is limited in order to drive up prices. So what you have in New York, for instance, is you have limited hotels, and just by supply demand, the prices are very high or it's simply not available. So actually, quite a few times, I booked an Airbnb in New York simply because it was available at a location I needed to be, or I couldn't afford the 5-star hotel. Another one that's interesting about Airbnb is unique properties. So when you talk to travelers today, especially of my generation, people don't care about that much about the white tablecloth or the, I don't know, the 24/7 concierge service. Maybe 20 hours is sufficient. They care about unique experiences. And one of the things Airbnb can offer is that personal touch and community feeling. You know, you get to know the person who's offering it. You get to stay in people's home. There's always a saying, you know, travel like a local. There's no more difference between traveling and being local, but rather you want to be, you know, in the place and understand what people are thinking. So why the change now? Why is something like Airbnb coming to the scene? You know, it started in 2008, but why is it really bursting out now? Why didn't it happen 10 years ago? Why is it not happening 10 years in the future? So one thing is, of course, you always need the entrepreneurs. So Brian Chesky and the guys, super smart guys, very driven, and they just went for it. That's one thing you need in the beginning always. The second thing is there's a certain social change. So eBay and these type of companies, they prospered a type of thinking to say you don't always have to buy new, you don't always have to buy it, you don't always have to have it the super shiny thing, but you can also simply go for the utility versus the ownership. If you talk about people in the 20s nowadays and ask them how many of you want to buy a car, especially in a city, most of them say, I don't care about a car. You know, I can take the tram, I can take a car sharing. So there's a change in mindset of utility versus ownership. But the biggest change still is technology. And there are 3 things that are very important here, why this is actually happening now. The first one is coordination. So I was talking earlier about if you want to share an expensive tool in your neighborhood, that's nice. But the neighborhood doesn't have such a huge demand, let's say, on an expensive Hilti drill. Now, if you make that Hilti drill available to the entire region or the neighborhood where you can be shipped within 1 or 2 days, that requires coordination. That requires a website with signal mechanisms where I can say, this is a Hilti, it's 1 year old, here's a picture, I'm a trusted renter, you can rent it. So there's coordination involved. And the same as in Airbnb, I can rent my place to my friends, but if I can make it accessible to a global audience, that's a lot more valuable, and I can use my distressed inventory. Second one is trust. I trust my neighborhood, but I may not trust the guy, you know, on the other block or other side of the city renting my tool. But the one thing that Airbnb did really, really well is to say not only how many reviews does it have, but to how many degrees is this renter connected to me. If it's a 3rd degree or even a 2nd degree connection via Facebook, that's an incredible signal of trustworthiness. And the last one is transaction costs. So there's no need for Airbnbs to have a hotel counter and have an expensive credit card system. I just take payment online on PayPal. Now, I don't have an Airbnb, but this is what I would do if I had a second apartment, I guess. So here's a picture that was quite recent. So you may have heard about the another industry that is being shaken now by sharing economy is the inner city transportation. This is a picture from Paris. Essentially, what happened is Uber. Uber is the company offering private black cabs around the world, and the incumbent taxi lobby hated it. Of course, is taking business away. So basically, if you give a plaque of a cab to the next generation, it's 50 to 100,000 euros. Of course, you want to protect your right. You know, you've made an investment, so you want to protect your right to the customers. And what happened is they were blocking the streets and everything. So this is one way to do it, but ultimately that's you cannot out-regulate innovation. It's like Andy Grove, he was the president of Intel, once said, so is technology good or bad? Is steel good or bad? You know, it's technology. It just happens. You cannot really just wish it away. So what actually happens is the biggest losers that will happen will be the insular taxi consortiums, because they're just trying to be protective does not work in the long run. The startup winners are companies like Uber, who realize people just need to go from A to B without the hassle of finding a cab, without the hassle of availability when they actually need it, and without all the other stuff that's wrong with some of the inner city transportation. Now they're also incumbent winners. You also have companies who are incumbents, such as BMW or Daimler, who recognized the need and saw the trend and said, okay, if we can fight it, why don't we just join the battle and try to win it as well? So these are actually companies who realize it's changing, it's no use fighting it, it's like globalization, so let's be part of it. And I guess, so ending this talk is leaving a couple of things for food for thought. So I'm not a hotel industry expert. These are just like, questions as an outsider looking in that I have for the hotel industry, looking at the changes in the sharing economy. So one of the things is, I've mentioned this before, few startups in history have been outregulated. There's been a recent discussion on why was YouTube the biggest winner in the online video world. And there's a lot of reasons. There were good timing, good investors, good founders, good entrepreneurs, good everything. But one of the #1 reasons, they completely did not care about copyright. They just went for it. And over time, yes, regulation caught up, and now they also have copyright, but by then they were already the #1 player in the market. And you have this a lot where startups go into areas that are regulated, but not necessarily for the benefit of the consumer, but purely for the benefit of the protection of the incumbents. And in the case of YouTube, a lot of the copyright stuff on the internet, I mean, copyright is a good thing, but a lot of this was very stiff. That didn't make a lot of sense for the consumers. The second one is, and when I have conversation with hoteliers, is I'm not sure if Airbnb is truly a substitute product for hotels. Because ultimately, I don't think, the question is, has the sweet spot for price, availability, and value really changed? Are customers really wanting different things? I'm not sure. Another one is, there's no doubt that if you have more supply, you will have a lower price. This is the same argument. There's people on the left and right going on a tangent about legalization of marijuana, of people saying, will you have, is it good, is it bad, is it legally wrong or good? There's no doubt if you legalize it, you will simply have more supply, so people will do it more. The same is here. There's many arguments of saying Airbnb is good or bad, but if you increase the supply of accommodation in a city for travelers, the price will go down. The question is how to adapt to this new paradigm. Another one is when I think about hotels, or my most memorable hotel experiences is, it's not just beds. Right? People don't go to Apple stores because they can buy iPhones there. I can buy an iPhone on the internet. I can buy it on Amazon. Hotels are more than that. Hotels, I mean, if you think about the true assets of a hotel, when I think if I go to a hotel in a city I don't know, the #1 asset I feel is trust. So if I trust my hotel to tell me what to do, or it gives me, because it's basically, I'm in a strange city, I don't speak the language. The hotel speaks my language, provides me with comfort and a place to stay. So there's something about a hotel that's more than just bed, and the question is how can that be leveraged, and what do customers care about that hotels can offer? And this is, I think, the last question is, what do customers truly want? And on that note, I have an interesting picture to show. So this is a restaurant in Berlin. It's called Bandeau-sur-Mer. It's on Torstraße, great restaurant. They only take cash. It's strange, but they only take cash. But it's a fantastic restaurant. So what I wanted to show here is, so this does not look like a very interesting restaurant, right? So this place is one of the best French cuisine you can find in all of Berlin. Maybe, I would say even better than, I hope no one's here, than the 2-star French meal at Hotel Adlon. But what they didn't care about is white tablecloth. So they will never get a Michelin star because of the ambience. I mean, the kitchen's right there, filled with 200,000 euros worth of kitchen equipment. They have all the sous vide oven. I had a great conversation with all the fancy equipment they have. But they will never win a Michelin star because of the ambience. Do customers care? No, it's always full. It's expensive. People come. You have to wait in line. It's amazing. So the question is one thing is to really think about, I think, expenditures that a hotel does. Do the things I invest in really, really make sense, as in, do customers really want that? And of course, do I know what customers want, and how do I ask them? Is survey sufficient? Can I look into data? Do you have business intelligence units within hotels? Because you have millions of customers every year telling you their preferences. Is that saved? Is that mined for data? Is that mined for preferences? And another thing is when customers come to a destination, and this is something that Airbnb cannot offer, is they want the full destination experience. There's something about a local expert, about the concierge, about knowing the city. Because ultimately, the hotel is a starting point for the city for many customers. There's a lot of things that can be offered, from restaurant bookings, activities bookings. You know, one of the reasons we started the business is because we thought the activity booking experience was dismal when you go to a hotel. Most hotels, you know, say for 5 stars, have a rack with brochures. It's just terrible. I mean, it's don't get me wrong. I like the brochures, but putting 10 brochures on my bed to look for the interesting tour in my language and with the right starting time that's close to the hotel, and maybe I'm willing to you know, afford a hotel pickup, it's just not a good experience. And if you think about how much time people spend between check-in and check-out, so the time they actually enjoy the trip, and how much time is spent on walking through the city aimlessly with a map or not doing anything useful, this was one of the reasons we actually started our business. So just want to leave you with one thought. When we got Case Cohen on board, I mean, we've been fanboys for Booking.com for, as any online travel company, huge fanboys. And as we finally got him on board, only took 200 calls and whatever. But when we got him on board, we asked him, so Case, what's the magic? What's the secret sauce? What do you do SEM bidding? How can you do it? I mean, how do you provide sometimes up to 80% of the online bookings for most hotels? And he said, it's consistency, and there's no magic, right? I mean, it's not because I'm trying to hide something from you. There's no magic. All they do is to give customers what they want. And it starts with simple things like, well, every day so Case Cohen, every day back into the days, I would look in the search log of what people type into the search box. And I would go through all the items that customers entered in that, because that was my gold mine. People typed in 3-star hotel in Edinburgh. If I didn't have that, I'd tell my sales teams to get it. If there wasn't one, I would talk to an asset management to build me one. So just giving customers what they want is so key, but that mindset is a bit more difficult than it sounds. And yeah, and hopefully with that, we can start an interesting conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tao. And I would like, for the discussion, I would like to invite a true legend in the hotel business, Willi Weiland. You know everybody. So Willi, maybe you join us here for our discussion. Tao, thanks so much for this input and this insight. And we truly can see that you are an economist. We open the discussion with you as well. Is there anybody who has an immediate question? Right there. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to hear a young person so enthusiastic. What I would like to say is that I think there's only one reason for this, is technology. Many of us were travelling in Eastern Europe when the wall came down, and staying in Prague and Budapest, and we were staying in people's homes with accommodation. You go to other countries around the world, where I'm a consultant who feasibility studies, but you go to Algeria, and there are many places still around the world where there's a shortage, and you do end up staying in people's homes, and it's great and fantastic. And the tourist boards in those cities in Prague were very organised in those days and gave out. You didn't have the internet. They couldn't. You couldn't do it like Airbnb. So actually, this has been going on in the UK. We have things called guest houses, which are people with a few extra rooms. It's not a new concept, but the internet has changed it, and it's great, and it's consolidated it, but it isn't something new. It's been going on forever, and it's just become easier to do it, I think. But I think we have to give credit to some very efficient tourist boards years ago who were doing this and fulfilling the need of travellers who couldn't get a room in a major city such as Prague, or very entrepreneurial people that wanted to make a few extra pounds, dollars, whatever, to supplement their meagre incomes in many cases. So I think it isn't a new concept, and I think that's quite important. It's just the internet has made it easier, and those guys at Airbnb have been the ones, and a few others, to take it on board. So I think we need to just make that point.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else has a question right away or want to comment on this? Willi, I would like to ask you, listening to Tao and listening to this fresh entrepreneurial spirit, with an infusion of technology, with an infusion of the next generation, asking, are we not giving the customer what they want? Do you agree here? Is there something that the hotel industry can learn and improve? And if so, what areas would you say where there's potential?
I think I just want to follow this one. Certainly we cannot avoid the holiday apartments. In the hotel business, of course, we see it as a competition. It is there, but on the other hand, we also see it as a positive sign in the sense that the holiday apartments are part of the new generation. I mean, this was always there, but the internet has made it possible to sell them, to offer them very openly, very easily, and the apartments, in a sense, open a new traveler trend. People want to stay like a Berliner or like a New Yorker or whatever. So the only problem with this one is that if apartments are rented in a house, 1 or 2 apartments is fine. But if a house with 10 apartments and 9 of them become a holiday apartment, then of course the remaining people living there really have a problem with this one. So they move out. So it's a kind of a gentrification, or you have a problem in a sense that the area becomes a more touristic area. The tourism acceptance in a city can be a problem there, and I think this is where we are fighting. We're not fighting, but we like to regulate this one in a sense. So we don't want to take it away. Maybe the hotel industry should be asked, what can we do? Can we offer something similar to what is developing there, instead of denying this one, or instead of closing it down, or in Berlin, for example, we have a law now where people are not allowed to have a holiday apartment or sell it to customers or put it in the internet and so on. I mean, today we wanted the CEO of Airbnb or from Bimdo here, but they were afraid to come. They thought the discussion could come up, which is against them. I think we are not against them. It's just a new way we have to find a way where we can work together, or where the hotel industry makes it as an asset for them, like eBay or this sort of thing, that we are able to attract customers in the city of Berlin, like, for example, families traveling with their kids. It's a totally different way. They love to go in an apartment, have a little kitchen in there or whatever. So in this way, I think we have to learn in the hotel industry to use the sharing economy for us as a benefit, and not as being afraid, oh no, let's not talk about it, or let's avoid this one, or be against this one.
But there is regulation happening. I mean, you say that there is a new law. The new law was not made up by the local politicians because they had an idea, but there was a strong urge by the industry to regulate it. The same thing happened in New York. So when I listen to Tao, and maybe you can comment on this, you say that actually it doesn't make sense to try to regulate it, because there will always be maybe a workaround, or people will always find a way to do it in a different way, or...
Well, I mean, so regulation is not a bad thing. So in general, I think it depends on who is the regulation truly for. So I very much agree with Willy Weiner when he says that it becomes a problem for gentrification for local residents. So I had the same issues. I was subletting an apartment, and I was basically thrown out because they could make a lot more money than from my rent. So now that was for different reasons, because I was staying in a very hip area of Berlin and with a very low rent. Now the problem is, I can make, as a pure lease, as an apartment owner, I can make a lot more money if I constantly rent it out. Now the problem is, there is a certain right to live and a certain right to be in an area. So I think if the regulation is purely seen from a consumer protection angle and not from a industry protecting angle, that's the right to go about it. And in that sense, regulation absolutely makes sense. So most economists actually are fully compliant with regulation if it makes sense for the consumer, not for the suppliers.
So it's really about... There's a question? Yes?
I'm curious in this sense, I'm from the Netherlands, Jim Moreya at the University of Hotel Management. I'm curious, there's just this new regulation in Amsterdam, which is actually allowing within certain requirements, which is actually, I think, good for tourism in Amsterdam and also good for hospitality.
Can you tell what the regulation allows? It allows everyone to rent it out?
The topics you just addressed, like for instance, when we get like 9 out of 10 apartments in one building to be by, and so they have restrictions on that. So there should be a livable situation. That's actually what there is. That's all.
Okay.
And also there is a tax element involved.
Absolutely.
But other than that, they allow now, because there was a huge discussion on blocking it, but not anymore. So I'm curious, what do you think about that?
No, I agree on this one. I mean, we had a regulation like not more than 12 beds in one house. You know, like this one. Plus the tax regulation has to be, and the fire life safety aspect, of course, has to take place. Right? I mean, and if this one can be regulated, I mean, then they become very good partner to the hotel industry. I mean, if they have to look after the fire life safety things, I think this already, they have to invest money in order to do this one, but also protect the city or the owner, whatever, for any problems. Yeah.
My second question then is, I'm rather surprised by the empty room here. I thought it was crowded, because I see this as the most topical issue for investments today.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's a very good question, because I think there must be a change in the mindset of the hotel industry.
Right.
It's the biggest economic sector in Germany, hotel, food and beverage, and so on. And we have an industry which is absolutely not innovative. There's no innovation.
Yeah.
All we have seen comes from outside.
Yeah.
From the booking source,
Airliner,
whatever.
whatever.
It's a typical hotel service. Yeah?
Yeah.
And if you look at the technology, I'm a finance guy, and if you look in the uniform system of accounts, there's even 2 lines for technology. If you talk to developers, if you talk to hotel brands, you get the discussion about minibars.
Yeah.
I don't care about minibars because I want a bottle of water in my room. I want to talk about technology. What is the asset?
Customer wants.
Yeah, it's coming back to the point what the customer wants, really. Where's the investment going, right?
Not only the customer, the investor,
Yeah.
and the operator.
Yeah.
But they're so restricted, and if you look at the IT technology in the hotels, everything is behind it. Who's investing in technology? You're talking about data mining.
Yeah.
We have billions
Of data.
sets. We're not using it because they're not simply able to use it.
Yeah.
Not get out of the bottom of the finance.
Oh my
So-
God.
It's
Okay.
unbelievable.
So on that comment, actually, what's interesting. So, so working in the travel ecosystem, there's a lot of, and speaking to a lot of investors, there's a lot of investments and actually a lot of startups offering very interesting solutions to hotels. Maybe there's no one-trick pony that solves all the headaches of hoteliers, and many hoteliers want that. But there's a lot of solutions out there to how to do revenue management, customer loyalty management, trust management, all these things, even inventory management. What we found, speaking to these guys, is their sales reps have a very hard time convincing hoteliers to adopt these solutions for a couple of reasons. One of them is probably understandable, is storing the data in the cloud. But it's so there's a certain resistance to adopt solutions. Not the solutions aren't out there. Investors, when you speak to investors as well, they always say there's money on the streets in the hotel industry because it's so big and so much efficiency to be reaped, but it's so hard to convince adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. We are a provider of data benchmarking in Germany, and we are providing data. And due to the fact that the hotel industry is about 10 years behind technology, we did a survey and asked our existing clients and our potentials, would you work with us if we have a cloud-based product for planning and budgeting? You know, the result is 100%
No. No cloud. Yeah. Yeah. They're afraid.
They're afraid. They're afraid that the data goes somewhere else.
Because it's our data.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're providing benchmarks.
Frankly, pretty much, unless you've got a total walled garden, virtually nothing. As we know from the NSA, nothing is protected.
But I come back to
we're getting into the cloud with smaller data. I find that absolutely ridiculous. I'm staggered. If I can,
Please.
go back to the legislative point. The area that interests me most, and perhaps it is about protecting my interests as a hotelier, is the health and safety one.
Yeah.
We as hoteliers spend an enormous amount of money on health and safety and complying with regulation, checking all the electrical appliances every year, etc. There's a huge hurdle to go through, financial hurdle to go through, which is it's a very important one we take immensely seriously. We're doing a lot with benchmarking systems, which are in the cloud so that each hotel can get to it, and we have some brand consistency. I think brand consistency is very, very important. However, with things like Airbnb, you have absolutely zero any sort of a standard, that people have to go through. I mean, we heard from House Trip, very nice gentleman talking about the system, and he says he puts people on there, they just check it on photographs and they get feedback, but they don't go and look at it. There is absolutely no standard to which we comply. Standard that cities like Amsterdam, if they're looking at the legislative environment, don't look at health and safety, because you talk about protecting the consumer. That has got to be the bottom line. It's got to be health and safety. And I think from a consumer point of view, that if I'm taking my children on a holiday and I'm staying in a house, I want to know it meets certain minimum criteria, and at least people who are selling it, the Airbnbs, the house trips, who take responsibility in taking the money, have done some minimum checks. That is one area that I find extraordinary, that the legislative environment is not.
Yeah, but you see that as extraordinary because you know about this side of things. But if you go and rent someone's cottage,
You don't have it.
or you take a rental of an apartment, it's not the norm to say, can I see the electrical certificate? Because people take that.
I agree. I think on a pure peer-to-peer basis, I think it's fine. That's it. I'm going to lend you my car. That's when it becomes a formal business through an intermediary who is holding himself out to providing a certain standard. I think there has to be, there ought to be a legislative environment to give the consumer some kind of safety.
I mean, I think that another service to be offered to be able to do that certification, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a business.
So I think.
Yeah, well, there we are. Maybe we can start a business.
You can create a startup right here. It's fine.
So I think actually that's an excellent point. I think the issue at heart is platforms. The duty of the platforms is to be transparent. If I tell you that this hotel is compliant with all these things, and this apartment may not be, but you choose to, as a government, purely from a legal perspective. So as a government, from a legal perspective, I want to set the lowest minimum bar of what should be allowed. So that is my personal belief. And on top, people can choose what they want or want not. So for instance, if I were to rent a cottage from my friend, the law does not disallow me to do that, and there is no, so the law shouldn't be different just because it happens on the internet or on a private transaction. So that's my belief. And then, but what they should be doing is to be very transparent about, and as you said, there is a service to be made there of what does it offer? Is it compliant with all these things? Does it offer certain type of services? And do the customers then choose to do that? The government then has to make sure that, yes, it's not a real threat to life or a real threat to these type of things.
It's a business set up specifically for that. It's not peer-to-peer. I think the rules very clearly need to be different. I know in my house, the things I've done, when I built my house, I had to comply with certain legal requirements, like door closers, etc. I've taken them all off. So I've taken the handrails off the stairs. My house does not comply with safety standards. So I let that house out. So if somebody falls down the stairs or there's a fire and the door isn't shut, I would probably end up being sued, or I could get sued. And then the person who would have rented it, Airbnb, ought to be sued as well, because they will not have checked that it complies. So I think there is a piece there. If you are a business, you're very different. It doesn't, and the standards are completely different from peer-to-peer.
Somebody had a comment there.
And those language schools visit the houses to check the houses. And you would not want to send your child to a family where there was a risky house, you know, for a stairway or whatever it might be. And strangely enough, in the old days, the tourist board used to visit those people that rented out their homes, in the odd room. And that has, there was a check in the old days. And Airbnb et al. Must comply.
Yeah.
We all remember the Sheraton Cairo fire, which changed the way health and safety, you know, in hotels. And we have a few shockers, and a few people die, and you know it will change. But it's a shame if that has to happen before this is legitimate. I think it is critical.
But if you continue this discussion and there would be demand for companies like Airbnb to upgrade this and upgrade that, I mean, you're truly, of course, creating a big competitor, because they might, if there's more demand to do this, they might even answer, say, okay, we do it. It's no problem. We expand the business. They just announced the 10th millionth stay that they booked through the system. And you know, they might even find a way to address these challenges and say, okay, we will have an Airbnb person come and check, you know, the room or the apartment before that, and there will be a little sign that says Airbnb checked, whatever, and they will do it with people all around the world. So I really, I don't know, is this really the way? Isn't it more the hotel industry looking into the opportunities and the challenges, but looking at the potential that is there? Because Airbnb will not cover 100% of the market, but there is more potential.
Here in Berlin, they cover 1/3 of the market, which is a lot. And no, I agree. We should have regulations, fire life safety. It's a very important one, because the hotel industry has to provide it. We have to put the money into the asset in order to do so. And the price is developed because of this investment. Yeah? And I think there has to be a competition equal platform there. So yes, but we should not go away and say we don't want them at all. No? I mean, if a house or a cottage or something, you give it from peer to peer, it's no problem whatsoever. But if it becomes a hotel business within a property, I think then they should follow the parameters of whatever country allows.
You had a comment here?
Yeah, Piers Brown, Boutique Hotel News. It came home to me perhaps how passive the hotel sector has been with all this. At a similar conference, the Deloitte conference in 2012, November 2012, so only about a year ago, when an upstart, perhaps from Starwood, in the audience, questioned a panel of CEOs and basically said, what does the CEO, what are the welcome comments on the Airbnb concept and what panelists think about it. The panelists looked at each other, asked, could you repeat the question, and then said, what is Airbnb?
Oh my God.
Now, the Deloitte conference
That's only 2 years ago.
this year, Deloitte put a slide up. Everybody knew what Airbnb was. Obviously, the graph went like that. The second point I just wanted to bring out is I've been really surprised at the hotel community lack of acceptance. Like obviously the presenter said, who's going to be the first hotel that says, hey, if you're a member of Airbnb, bring a voucher in and we'll give you $10 off your room or something like that. I see nothing. And just a couple of points there.
Yeah.
Andrea, and then Lenny.
Andrea, to use my name, I'm the facilitator of another session in 2 hours. What comes to my mind is the word of trust you mentioned, and the word of relationship. I'm part of the Airbnb community, and what do I give? If I'm a host, I create a one-to-one relationship or one-to-four relationship. They come to my house, I know they love music. Which music do you love? Then I have some recommendations of where they could go. It could be one night on there for food. It could be something else. If they like the zoo, if they're with their kids, I will tell them when to go when they are not kept at chain to queue for 4 hours. So it's this, what do I have? I have all my confidence, I have all my experiences, I then address to my community. And for example, I talked to Michael Scott from Ruby Hotels. What do they do? They don't have a concierge anymore. So there's no personal one-to-one relationship. But they use all the data to then really confront people with this kind of knowledge they could be specifically interested in. And he says, for example, that the whole automatization could go much further in making the customer's journey 100% benefit for the hotels, because they supply the people with what they else want beside them. And I'm really asking myself, why not take that experience and to provide more for them? Besides that, what you said, is leaflets running around.
Yeah, horrible.
One fits all, it doesn't fit at all.
The following as well is almost tribal. The tribal community, are you an Airbnb? There's a big ad campaign at the moment in London, and Mitter is one of the ads, but perhaps we're our own worst enemy with, what is loyalty to promiscuity, who's loyal to what OTA,
That's right.
etc.
Yeah.
Quite a lot.
Yes. Another question there.
Related to those, very curious, and actually trying to do the research side of it is very curious about those developments. I know about Rotterdam, privately owned small hotel, actually teamed up with Airbnb people, and they offer their wellness service. And they have this, if you cannot rent out, you can always rent an art hotel and the other way around kind of cooperation. I think this is the first initiative that I know of. And I think the hotel industry to do is actually development. I'm very curious, are there any like CMWs or Daimlers in the field of hospitality?
Not yet.
I'm referring to this car example.
Not yet. As far as I know, Daimler invested in the taxi business. My Taxi is an investment. They invested, I think, in Uber or Black Lane and one of the chauffeur services.
Yeah,
but they
are there parallels? Are there any Hiltons, Marriotts, Hyatts?
doing that. No problem.
You have obviously made a name for themselves in constructing purpose-built branded residences. But
So just commenting on that, so the service component is a very interesting point. So when we spoke to Airbnb, I think it was 1.5 years ago, about partnerships, and when we asked them, what are you guys focusing on? And their number one thing they were obsessing about was service. How could Airbnb, instead of just being a pure, here's a property, you can go rent it, but how can they provide service? Because there's a lot, so personally I prefer hotels over Airbnb because I like my room clean when I come back and there's a new towel and that's all nice, especially if you stay for more than 2 days. There's something about service and access to different things that hotels have that Airbnb doesn't have. So I think it's a huge opportunity actually for hotels. Hotels have so much expertise and economies of scale around service that why not extend that to hotels? That makes a lot of sense.
I know that something that's happened in the last 6 months is Chip Conley, an innovation that boutique hotels making go to Viva, etc. It was interesting at that point he was brand ambassador for Airbnb about 6 months ago. I think they hanker after acceptance from hospitality space. Chip is very, very good on the service side, based out of Dublin.
I think he's also on the board of Airbnb.
Yeah, maybe now.
Yeah.
Is he now COO? Or he's been appointed COO?
I'm sorry?
I thought Chip had been appointed COO.
Oh, okay.
But still, I think if I refer to Andre Thiele's comment, on trust, on my feeling as a customer that when I come to this place that they understand me or they even want to understand me. They're interested in my interest. They want to provide me with a service when I check in, and not what you described, that I run around and I go to the sport and all these little leaflets that look horrible. and then you have to line up to get to the concierge, and the concierge, you know, he doesn't know you. He looks maybe into the booking, but then he sees when you checked in. Probably the first time he sees, you know, that you maybe travel with your kids. Then he asks you what you're interested in, and so that whole process, you know, why technology can probably help a lot in that. And if it's true that, you know, you just don't access the data and you can work with the data, then there is this. Is this maybe the reason, Willy, looking at you, why this transition between these young, flexible, you know, fast-growing companies, and on the other side, a business that has been around for, you know, a long time, not well known for the most innovative approach when it comes to data and computers. Maybe is that the big challenge that the hotel industry probably will face in the next 5 years?
I mean, we're very good on building design hotels or all this stuff. I think, but we should give more finance into IT equipment and this sort of thing. Like we live in the generation of the smartphone. I mean, check-in today, you still come to the counter, you have to sign in, and so on and so on.
In paper.
In paper, yeah.
I put it all in my booking, and I'm always surprised that I have to put it again into paper. Why is that?
And you may build a database which is wrong because input was wrong, and so on and so on. I mean, we're not really ready to change that. I mean, I think, in my opinion, if you could do much more about it, we have a point of sale system in the hotel, and you use this one as a database, but it's not a database. We have some addresses, but we have Excel sheets, and so on and so on. So I think here we need a total change in it. I mean, like you said, the cloud, you know, I mean, they are scared the data could go somewhere else, but now it's on the paper and goes in the bin in the end of the day. I think we have to change our approach on this one in the hotel industry and really find out what the customer wants. And use this data, where he booked, how he booked it, how he comes in. I mean, you arrive at the desk and the receptionist asks you, you want to check in? Yeah, of course I want to check in. I mean, it starts there somehow, you know. And you should limit this one. I mean, put your phone on the desk and you got your data in the edge card or in the computer already, and then the screen comes up with a picture of the name, and then we can use much more of this data in those days, but the industry is not ready to invest money. We invest money in the building, maybe, in the carpet, or sometimes in the employees, which we should do more as well. But nothing in logistics and how to keep the customer happy and easy access. Right? That he can, like, for example, if he's at home, goes through, get your idea, okay, I make my plan. I note a brochure on the bed. I mean, it's awful. And this sort of thing. I think we have to change that. But the new generation of hotel, we have to live with less employees because we don't find them anymore. So consequently, we have to find ways in giving the same service at maybe lower cost, but have some backup systems, software, etc.
So maybe just quickly commenting on that. So one of the things that I think the hotel industry, especially for such a conference, can think about is investment. So the hotel industry invests a ton of money into assets. Why not invest into startups? Why not when you look at Google, who they invested, I think $1 billion into I think 500 million into Uber. Daimler is investing invested 10 million into a taxi company, and the taxi companies are the primary buyers of Mercedes cars. So there's something about so the thing that could change here is hotel industry investing into itself because it's basically propagating its own evolution, and secondly, if you have a startup, startups always follow the money. Entrepreneurs follow where the money is and build a solution that they think there's a market adoption need. And the startups have a much easier time if it comes from a group of hotels or a group of something with who can open some doors. So I think there's a great opportunity of hotels saying we have a lot of money sitting here, great cash flows. I mean, it cannot be that newspapers who are even more on the decline, well, actually they are in the decline, hotels are on the decline, but newspapers are one of the biggest investors in Germany into startups. Why isn't the hospitality industry a much bigger industry and much more cash flow, not investing anything into these type of companies?
Sorry, there was one question right here. And then Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
sort of fine for me. So I think that it's overrated the standard one. Because you're moving someone's home, so there's kind of like this, etc. But part of what I was saying earlier, it's the hotels should focus on the critical needs. Whether I want a concierge service, that's a nice to have, but it's not going to make a difference whether I stay in the hotel or Airbnb. If they know my needs for theater or art in Airbnb, fine, but I'm going there for a social.
I think we had two comments right here.
Yeah, I hosted a leisure real estate conference in the UK last week, and it was interesting the sort of audience profile, and also we had a presenter from Home Away. And he was hankering to connect with the hotel industry in general, because they've got perhaps hotel resorts, etc., for extra bookings through their system. But it's been quite interesting. Home Away and Airbnb have been very aggressive on the disruptive technology, etc. I don't think it's helped in New York and Germany to fight the legal battle. But there are others out there that are doing something underneath that are sort of winning. Even from an exchange platform, there's a company like HomeSwap that were there last week, which is a community of swappers which don't have the necessary legal. Also, there are hospitality brands already in perhaps the sharing exchange space. Marriott, for instance, timeshare, fractional ownership brands, Wyndham, with a lot of rentals, RCI exchange, exchange. So perhaps those brands might have a head start from a hospitality perspective, engaging more.
Just a second. You had a comment, right?
My name is Hans Franke. We were planning 3 years ago. We were planning in hotel in Hamburg with self-reception. So that you make the check-in with the smartphone, and you come to your room, and you have a monitor in front of the room. It says welcome, Mr. X, and also with RFID chips.
RFID. Yeah. RFID.
So even if you enter to the hotel, the hotel knows that you are coming, you are here, you are in room 604, and the air conditioner is switching on your temperature, which you chose last time when you left the room. So, I mean, there was something there, but on the very end it was too expensive. And it becomes a regular hotel.
Okay.
But we had such talks with some Austrian companies, and so we started again, because 3 years ago the smartphones were not so clever as now. So, I mean, there is something
Moving
yeah.
slowly.
Thing in the back. There was some more.
No checkout, no check-in, everything.
You just leave.
Over smartphone. And the invoice you get with your
Citizen M is perhaps a brand that's embraced technology, automatic check-in with an iPad in the room, and just it reacts to the blinds down, change the temperature from the iPad. So a brand that's cutting
With all the loyalty programs, wouldn't it be possible to distill the information out of that to personalise it for the checking in guest with the loyalty program? Would say that something, or is that just, or why not?
I don't know. That's a question of data security, but obviously the data is available. That's what I meant. I mean, you have those point of sale systems. They're more a kind of a calculation, making the invoice ready and so on and so on. And but hotels not really have a database where they really could structure the information or get more than just the address, age, and whatever you need for a good mailing. Or
Interesting.
On your screen when you come in, your name comes up, you can get it on the phone. So there is a certain amount of technology and information.
Oh, it's very basic.
So I would actually challenge that notion in that, so loyalty programs have a lot of data. But you can only make sense from data if you ask the right questions. So I'm not sure, so I mean, I'm not a frequent hotel guest, but if I'm an airline frequent traveler, they don't ask me anything about who I am or what I want. So if you don't ask me that, so for instance, when we implement our review program, so you can, when you book a tour, an activity, you can leave a review. We ask you, how do you like it? Leave a comment and a couple other things. We couldn't get any data. We had thousands and thousands of reviews. Didn't make any sense. So what we did now is added a couple of questions of who do you travel with? How old are you? When is your next trip? And from that, you can make much better recommendations. Now we can, when you come to the website, you can click on family friendly because everybody who had a family and a kids and rated 5 stars rated that, so you can pop that up. So I think you got to ask the right questions. I'm not sure if the loyalty program is asking the right questions.
Yeah, please.
You're absolutely right, as I was saying. One of the things we do in my hotel group, very small group of Australia, is we work very much closely. It is 8 years at the beginning of the year, it's probably 3 children in full hotel. And we don't have a bar in the restaurant, we work with the local community, it's all about social sustainability. It's not, it's a boutique hotel, but no extras in the bill. You haven't paid for Wi-Fi for 8 years. But
Yeah.
the way, sorry, the train of thought, just
The loyalty program. We were talking about the loyalty program and the right questions.
Actually getting that information from the guests. We try to get all that information from the guests. We've actually thought about on our night teams going through all the arriving guests and looking at social media to find that information on guests. We had big concern there, perhaps it was when the NSA was coming out with the slogan about guests when you walk up and you say, hello, Mr. So-and-so, because you've got his photograph there in front of you, and the guests thinking, this is a bit creepy. Why are you traveling with your girlfriend, not your wife? Not quite that. But there was the feeling that there has to be an element of, I think you're talking about data protection and privacy, but the biggest difficulty is actually getting that information to the guests. Yeah. We send a pre-arrival email, you say, what are you interested in? Are you traveling with children? Is it your birthday? Can we book your restaurant? And obviously you keep that data, you find out as much as you can, but the difficulty is guests don't want to tell you very much. And unless they do, unless you've got the right questions, and even with the right questions, in theory, yes. Now, increasingly, mobile booking is all about one-click booking. That's what guests want, which is why the OTAs do so well, because you're already on Expedia or Booking.com. You might want to go to the hotel website. You've got to fill it in all in from the start. So you want the one-click booking. You don't want to put lots of information on particularly on a mobile. You don't want to put credit card.
Well, I think it depends on the guest, because business guest, yes, it's a leisure guest.
They're taking more time, and they'll probably be doing another. Yeah, you're right. They'll probably be doing another. Yeah, but it's still unfortunately a minority. We find it's a minority. Yes.
There's not the option or knowledge to have such films in the booking process.
Well, it's very easy to add it in. On a lot of PMS, on a lot of add in an extra page, collect that page, you can do that fairly easily. But as a voluntary, you don't have to fill it if you want to. Most people just don't fill it in. They want to get through the process as quickly as possible. They've got bored by that stage. The more questions you ask, the more likely you are to disappear.
There's another question in the back. Thank you.
I'd like to react to this because actually there's a lot of research on particular behavior platforms. Actually, if you look at particular behavior for Airbnb, for instance, like further that example, there's not a lot of information shared. People do want to share information, but not in the way that hotels, I think, ask for. And actually, Bernd Schmidt, who is a famous customer experience management writer and researcher, he says it's the problem with CRM systems is that you want to know everything about the guest, but the guest cannot know anything about you. There is no relationship. People want to get into trust systems like we've been informed about several times. And the problem is that if you feel creepy if somebody knows about your girlfriend or whatever, if you don't know that person. But if that person is in a similar situation with you, there's many books and publications there sharing. Then all of a sudden it becomes a very different social system. And then it's not the one click. The one click is when, and we besides that, I don't believe in business gas and leisure gas, but that's my personal opinion. I believe in gas. And that's because I've been just interviewing somebody who goes to Airbnb all the time, and she leads a business, and she goes to Airbnb as a business guest, but she doesn't feel like a business guest because we get this hybrid working situation. I think that we still use old vocabulary to solve new problems. That's in my view, and I'm so curious how come that this is not the discussion that the very expensive hospitality industry is using. We're just talking CRM systems, which is 1980.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
In my view, but that's
Thank you.
the question. How come this is not the discussion?
Yeah. So maybe we do it on the big stage next year. Let's see if we can migrate this podium to the big stage next year. I want to thank you all for this vivid discussion. I want to thank Willy and Tao for being here and kicking this off. Thanks, Tao, again for this input. Fantastic. And I think we all wish Get Your Guide a nice future, and that we can learn a lot in the industry from here. Thanks you in the audience for your input and your critical discussion. I hope this will continue, and I hope that you will have a fruitful discussion in that group continuing, and that we take a part of that energy and the questions maybe for the rest of the day. And then next year, Willy Weiland will manage that we make it big. And that it's mandatory to, assess the meeting from an industry point of view. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.